The Honourable Senator McCoy.
It gives me great pleasure today to address the inquiry calling the attention of the Senate to the budget entitled Canada's Economic Action Plan, which was tabled at the end of January of this year. I'm pleased particularly on a couple of grounds. One, let me say, I haven't seen this much progressive thinking from a federal conservative government in quite a long time. And as an independent PC myself, it warms the cockles of my heart. Of course, the document is a lot bigger than that, and one could truly say that it is a nonpartisan effort because, in many ways, the best thinking of four different parties of the moment at least, went into building this document: the Conservatives, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Bloc Québécois. But I must say also, in listening to the repartee in this chamber over the last several days, I am struck by a common theme that each and every senator in this chamber is also keen to help Canada out of its current recession. And it's true, there are differences of opinion, genuine differences of opinion amongst many of us as to how best to do that. But the one thing we all have in common is that we want to do the right thing. So secondly, I'm also very pleased to say that, and maybe this is for the first time ever, I'm able to agree with a statement made by our Finance Minister, the Honourable Jim Flaherty. He was quoted yesterday saying, and speaking about the stimulus package, he said, "Some mistakes will be made." That is a statement with which I agree. And I hazard a guess that many Canadians would agree with that statement. In fact, I'll give you one example, and this is an unsolicited comment that came to my blog last night by a man or a woman, it's not possible for me to tell, who wrote this comment on my blog. He said, or she said, "I am very concerned about amendments to the Competition Act, the Investment Canada Act, the Navigable Waters Protection Act, and other statutes that were not addressed during question period or raised by the media. I was shocked to hear that the clause-by-clause committee review, referring to the House of Commons, of a 500-plus page implementation bill was already completed and passed. I barely had a chance to write to my MP or any opposition leader. I've seen the Investment Canada Act be watered down throughout the years, and those amendments don't get reversed. Unfettered free trade, deregulation, and careless economic management has led to the alarming situation we have today. Now is not the time to tinker around with Milton Friedman-inspired policy changes." Of course, we know that Senator Murray raised this very point earlier this week, and he did so by asking Senator Day, who is the chair of the National Finance Committee, whether he would undertake to do all he can to ensure that people who are concerned about amendments to the Competition Act, the Investment Canada Act, the Navigable Waters Protection Act, and other statutes that, quote, "have nothing to do with immediate economic recovery," have full opportunity to be heard by that committee. There are other examples in this Budget 2009 that need to be looked at as well. One is the $154 million dedicated to setting up an office for the National Securities Commission. This too, honourable senators, has nothing to do with immediate economic recovery. The government is relying in large part upon a report written by one Mr. Thomas Hawken. Let me tell you, this is like history revisited for me. For 20 years, Mr. Hawken has been trying to nationalize the securities industry. When I was a minister in the Alberta government, I was responsible for the Alberta Securities Commission. I fought him then, and I fought him with a very good ally, Monsieur Pierre Fortier, who was my counterpart in Quebec. We fought him to a standstill, and that illustrious PC Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney, agreed with us. We fought for our regional interests then, and we will fight for them again now. The main point that I think we have to keep our eye on is that it was the asset-backed commercial paper, the ABC paper, that led to the financial crisis, which has led to the recession. One thing that I think we must remember is that the Canadian banks owned the majority of ABC paper in this country. There was a total of $110 billion of that kind of paper in Canada. Our banks had 80 billion of it. Senators in this room, of course, know that the banks in Canada are regulated by OSFI, which is the Office for the Superintendent of Financial Institutions. That's a federal regulator. There is no OSC or ASC or QSC or any other securities commission that regulates those banks. It is already regulated by Ottawa. They failed to stop this crisis, and it has nothing to do with a national securities regulator, and that regulator would have nothing to do with preventing a similar crisis. I will return to this point at the earliest opportunity when other pieces of legislation come forward. But I do want to say, here's a question that people are asking me: where has the $80 billion of ABC paper gone?